Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Arbiters of Sound. I am Berk, and I'm here with my friend Ali. We are going to listen to some music. We're each going to show each other a track. We're going to talk about it. Hopefully, we like the track. And yeah, we'll see what happens, basically.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Titles. Okay, so what I've got for you today, specifically, Ali, is a very nice song. It's by a band called Tennyson. Do you know Tennyson?
Never heard of it. So
okay, that's good. Yeah. That's good. So basically, Tennyson is like a Canadian duo, brother and sister duo, and the main guy called Luke. He's just like this shit up producer. And he's been producing since he was like tiny.
Okay.
And I think he produced this when he was like 18.
Okay, fine.
And I guess it's kind of electronic, but it feels very futuristic to me. It's got electronic, jazz, kind of a lot of influences.
Yeah, it sounds.
And it's just very well produced.
Okay.
And it's a cool song.
Nice.
So essentially, yeah, I just wanted to see what you think of it. Really, I'm not saying it's like pushing any boundaries necessarily, but yeah. So this is a song called "With You" by Tennyson. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
I really quite like the drums, a bit skippy.
Yeah, a bit skippy, exactly. Got this serene water running in the background.
Yeah. It's almost garagey.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Oh, he smiled already.
Yeah, this is nice. I don't really know where it's going to go as well, which is quite exciting. Like, it could go anywhere right now.
What do you reckon? What's your best guess?
I'm thinking like internet music, you know, like
Okay.
it suddenly goes a bit strange. I don't know. Nah, fuck this. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like game music-y as well.
Yeah. Yeah, see? There you go. I know some called it, man.
Yeah.
You called it.
That's nice.
Oh,
It's good to go from so much going on
yeah,
to
yeah.
quite like,
Just, you gotta take it down a notch.
a bit serene.
The lazy beat.
I really like the
The
keys,
harmonies.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
私は知らないけど
They're quite like a mainstay of the whole track. They tie every little part together.
Yeah.
And it feels like the keys.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice little melody going on.
Yeah. I think otherwise it'd be a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
It's good though. It's nice.
I would argue it's pretty chaotic already.
Yes, it's very chaotic.
One more for good measure.
I love these bits. Like you could turn this bit specifically into a whole track.
Yeah.
Like, just keep playing it out and out.
Well, that's how it
That
ends.
was good.
So it ends. Yeah, dude. What do you think about first of all?
Kind of unexpected. I wasn't expecting that kind of music,
Yeah. Okay.
firstly, but I'm not
You
sure
mean
why.
you mean like from the very beginning or like when it started playing in the intro?
Yeah, well, I don't know. So the intro for me was like I said, it's a bit skippy.
Yeah,
and then it kind of just exploded into a lot of different pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can tell that he's like you said, a talented producer,
Mm.
because it's hard to make all of that sort of stuff sound cohesive.
Yeah. There's so much going on, right? Like there's so many little bits, obviously like samples too, but like just like little, very staccato bits, I guess, kind of like, and then when you put them together, it's like, whoa, you kind of feel like, shit, what's going on, you know?
And he's just quite good at like chopping it up as well.
Yeah,
because
that's it, yeah.
there's lots of bits that are kind of carrying on. Like the keys are like quite continuous. The bass is quite continuous,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
it's to break it
Yeah,
down.
yeah, and he's just so in control of all the little sounds that he has.
Yeah.
Because that bit where he's like brip, 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 and it's just like whoa.
Yeah.
Because like you kind of wouldn't do that, but like he's like, you know what? I'm producing this on my computer. It's all electronic, like it's all fake, obviously. So I can just do whatever the fuck I want with it. And I don't know. He just like chops them up early, and it's like
Yeah, I think he plays to that quite a lot. He knows that it's
Yeah.
like electronic, pure electronic music. There's
Yeah.
no kind of beating around the bush, and he just plays and he uses that to mass effect or whatever.
yeah, for sure.
So no, it was good. I would say the bits in between, so the breakdown between the first explosion,
Yeah.
where everything's going on.
And it kind of goes like
Yeah, a bit more serene, a bit more like hip hoppy, jazzy, I guess.
Yeah.
I really like those bits. I think the keys, like I said on top,
yeah,
seem to be nice and tying everything together.
yeah,
A bit more space to it.
yeah.
I'd say when it is going super chaotic, the bass that he uses, I'm not a massive fan of.
Okay.
I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard to justify. I think I want to say it's a bit familiar
Okay.
in some ways, at least in that style of music.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's not super impactful. It's not a lot of sub bass, I guess,
Yeah. Okay.
which is probably what he wanted.
Yeah.
But it kind of is like it's very like top heavy,
Right.
or kind of head heavy, I guess.
Okay.
I feel like it misses some of the
So
lower frequent.
You're like it's not really doing the bass job. It's kind of
Yeah,
too noticeable up here.
Yeah.
rather than like giving me the feeling of like bass.
yeah. I think it's missing some of that like lower frequency. I don't know, whatever.
Fair. Yeah.
But I guess it kind of also adds to the whole chaotic feeling that's going on, because they're all kind of going on at that sort of level,
Yeah,
and everything's very much in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite impressive, to be honest, to be able to tie all those pieces together.
Yeah. And I guess you mentioned like the breakdown sounds a bit hip hoppy, jazzy, and so
Yeah.
on, and like I guess the chaotic bits are quite electronic. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like there are a lot of different influences, and maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm not saying he's like unique or anything, but it feels very futuristic to me. It's like I say, he's embraced the fact that this is all laptop, and it's just like lots of little things going on. He's not like pretending to be drawing, I don't know, massive influences from the past or like using analog gear or anything. He's like, I'm just gonna fucking do this insane, unplayable thing, basically. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it would be impossible to try and play that all live
yeah.
whilst everything's going on.
Yeah, although I do say that, but like I said, they're a duo, right?
Yeah.
And he plays with his sister, who's a drummer.
Okay.
And so apparently, what they do with all the tracks is like he kind of produces all of this himself, and then she ends up like learning the parts. So obviously the drum sounds change quite often.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily in the song. Can't remember exactly, but she can also trigger samples because she's got like electronic like triggers and so on. So she ends up learning just this routine of like drum playing that. And then he's got the sounds changing, like within Ableton Live, for example.
Okay.
So she's just kind of like playing drum parts, and then things are changing, and all this shit's going on. It's like, whoa. And then, it must be hard for her to like remember all the things that I have to hit this trigger to trigger that sample at this moment, and shit like that.
Of course.
So it's like,
it'd be pretty impressive to see that live, to be honest. And that's
Yeah.
what I was going to ask you about, because it seemed when you said you kind of brought it in as a Canadian duo,
Yeah.
brother and are they brother and sister?
Brother and sister, yeah,
sister. I was thinking there was going to be some vocals from one of them,
Right.
or it was going to be less electronic-y in some way. You know, there'd be some more traditional instruments in there. But yeah, it was not like that at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is quite a nice surprise as well. That's really kind of shocked me. Yeah, so that was, it was pretty amazing. I really loved the bits in between. Like I said, when we were listening to it, I think the second breakdown or whatever,
Yeah.
interlude could have been a track in itself. And it kind of reminded me of
The ending, yeah.
Bad, Not Good as well. Some of the chords, at least the sound or the timbre or whatever,
Yeah.
could have been drawn out like slowly. Other elements are coming back in, but they're just not interested in that, are they?
Yeah.
Kind of defeats the object of the song as well, which is
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
good thing as well. It's quite surprising.
Yeah, I guess that key part you're referring to, because it's the same thing as he was playing throughout. And I guess, because they don't have vocals, it's sort of like the main sort of melody and like the main theme,
Yeah.
let's say.
Yeah.
And it sounds very jazzy, especially at the end.
Yeah.
It kind of plays in that like, very slow way. But yeah, I don't know. I think it sounds fucking cool.
Do you know
Very
how
fresh.
Do you know how old they are now? Because you said they've been producing for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, so this is from 2014 when he was
Okay.
18. So that makes him like 26,
Okay.
I guess, 25,
Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
So still super young. I think are they twins? I don't know, but she's around that age too. So yeah, super young, super talented. They've been going at it for ages, and yeah, they have a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping that at least you'll check out some other stuff.
I will.
Basically,
That is-
my only goal, my only goal in life.
yeah, I will. I will definitely check out some more. It's interesting.
Cool, man.
Especially if that's an older track. I'd like
Yeah.
to hear some more around that sort of age, and then some new ones as well. See where they've gone.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I was going to say the vocal sampling, it kind of pitches down and so on. That definitely reminds me of that era, right? Like 2013,
Yeah.
2014, it's
Yeah.
very, very common. And yeah, he's like fallen prey to that as well. So I guess it kind of evokes that period of my life that I just remember hearing so many tracks with just that kind of,
Everything being pitched everywhere.
yeah, vocal samples just like being manipulated. And like,
Yeah.
especially like the kind of, like the kind of higher thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. That's
Cool.
like for me.
I'm glad, man.
Yeah.
So should we move on to your track?
Let's do it.
Cool. There you go.
So yeah, I've got this track ready. So I chose this track, and I did choose it with you in mind. I was,
Okay.
like I said, well, we were talking beforehand, and I was kind of trying to look back on some music, mostly UK electronic music,
Okay.
and tried to pick out some that were kind of timeless, that I would still pick up today, listen to it today, and still love it as much as the first time I've heard it.
Nice.
I did choose this one specifically for you because there's some elements in it that are a little bit funky, maybe,
Okay.
or some nice elements on top. I don't
Okay.
want to give too much away.
Yeah, I want to see if I can pick them out.
It's also quite an easy track, I think, to like because there's a very famous sample that you'll recognize very, very instantly, I think, that kind of goes throughout, the vocals of it at least.
A lot of pressure on me now to like the elements and then recognize the sample.
And you're going to hate every single bit of it.
Yeah.
You're going to slate it for the next 10 minutes. I love it. So
My
no,
notes ready.
Yeah, so I'll explain a bit more afterwards, I think, about
Yeah,
the
sure.
kind of context and why, and
Cool,
think about the
yeah.
label as well, because it's quite a nice label. It comes
Okay.
from.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Cool.
You know, I think if you're mixing it, you want the nice long intros and outros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now they're mixing it in
Yeah,
slowly.
exactly. It's coming in. I would still listen to this by itself, though, not mixing tracks as well.
Okay.
I never knew there was a love like this before.
What is this?
Never had someone to show me a love like this before. Now that we have come to be a brand new life I can see. Never thought you'd be a special part of me. No, baby. The reasons are because of you. I can go on.
I really love the bass for me.
Take my mind off of loving you. And I wanna
you want to sing along.
No, YouTube doesn't need that. Definitely not. Definitely not. It's tempting. It's tempting.
Yeah, it's tempting.
I'm holding my back. But that's what I mean. I feel like these kind of lyrics or this vocal track is so easy to make a good track. It's almost like a cop out. Like,
Yeah. Just stick this on
just
top.
take this on and be fine.
I never was no love like this before. Love like this before, no. Never had someone to show me a love. I never had a love like this before. I never was no love like
Quite a slow track. Like for a house, it's not
Yeah,
too
definitely.
fast.
Never had someone to show me a love. I never had a love like this before.
Oh, mate. Like,
You gotta. It's a YouTube quality song, so the quality is not all good. But arpeggiated bass, something. It's quite a long time without the lyrics as well, without the vocal tracks going over the top.
yeah, it's
nice.
true. So maybe not cop out after all. It's
No.
like, I'll put in some
Put some effort,
sections. Yeah.
Yeah, potentially the biggest part of the track as well, like everything going on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad it came out.
Ties everything.
Sick.
I don't know how long it is.
Three quarters of the way, basically.
It's hard not to sing along. I definitely can't embarrass myself on YouTube like that. There's no way.
Now we're gonna do harmony after this
Oh
finishes.
yeah, perfect. We've got it all set up. It's going to be perfect. So it's the elongated outro.
Yeah.
Gone.
Well, you know, we'll give it the respect. Yeah?
Yeah, of course. So, Faith Evans is the original.
Ah, okay.
And Love Like This, I think, is the name of the
Love Like
same
This.
name of the original track.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
it's B&S Edit
Okay.
and B&S
B and S.
B&S, which I found out this week after doing a bit of research around the track, is Bailing and Simpson. And
Bailing and Simpson.
Yeah, which is
So the two people involved.
yeah,
I guess.
so.
Yeah. Are they? Well, who are they? Do you know?
So I didn't actually know too many more of their tracks.
Hmm.
I've known this track for quite a while now. I think probably close to when it came out, which I think was around 2012.
Okay.
So not too.
That's later than I thought for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the obviously, you know, you can sample old stuff, but I don't know. It just
Yeah.
reminded me of an older tune.
I think now you say that, I kind of
Yeah.
agree, because there's a lot of like classical or more traditional instruments and elements that are going on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I think I chose it specifically.
Okay.
For you, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I loved it. I
Yeah?
loved it. Yeah. It's
Okay.
because like, yeah, obviously the vocal kind of ties things together really nicely, but the groove is so driving as well. It's like, it's kind of relentless. It's just like, bam. And then you have that beautiful vocal on top. You just kind of like, boom. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very driving. So yeah, it's
I
very nice.
thought the kind of instruments as well, like they sound a bit, well, I guess funky, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Or like they're very classical synthesizer sounds. Like,
Yeah, that's more what I was going to say. Yeah, I guess, you know, obviously they're used in those kind of genres too, but it still evoked like electronic to me, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah,
okay,
the
cool.
vocal just makes it very R&B.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, very simple sounds actually.
Yeah.
Like very sort of not too processed yet, sort of like very simple things that you'd find on synthesizers, I reckon.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I kind of think it's probably not too, almost somewhat opposite to the track that you showed me, where it's all computer based.
Yeah.
You can imagine, I don't know if it was for sure, but you can imagine that being played on hardware and then just recorded in, because it's all just synthesizers, drum machines, everything else that's going on top of that.
The drums seemed definitely harder and more like, you know, it's not your stock sort of sounds, let's say. It just sounded a lot more processed and a lot harder. Whereas the more synthy things were, quite standard sounds you would find in like sound synthesis class or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it works. They're timeless as well.
Yeah, I think for me, when I hear it, it's always the bass. When the first bass comes in, and it's like doom, 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 doom. Like, that's incredible. Yeah. When you hear it like on a nice sound system, or because I got it on the vinyl and it's just very like loud sound, which I think, and that's kind of what I was saying, not to compare tracks at all, but when it's just a different type of track where a lot of the process sound was kind of up here, and this one seems a little bit more down here.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, especially like the bit without the vocals where he was layering up all these synths, and there was a lot down there. Usually it's sort of like, you should have a couple of bass instruments and they shouldn't clash too much. And he's like, fuck it.
Yeah, just fucking throw everything in there. Yeah. You'll be right. It sounds good in post.
Yeah, very full.
So some of the wider context I think was that is from a label. It's a sub-label of a label called Future Boogie.
Okay.
Which was kind of a seminal-ish house label in the early 2010s. So from 2010 to probably 2014, they were releasing a lot of stuff. I think they've started to release a few re-releases maybe recently, or just start back up again. But yeah, they were from Bristol, which obviously you know very well.
Yes.
Living there. And Bristol's got, such a massive music culture. And I think a lot of the other releases that are on that label sound very Bristol to me. Okay. They have, I guess the biggest and probably the most well-known is Julio Bashmore.
Okay.
And he was a huge house producer, or is a huge house producer. And he's got a few releases on that. And actually the flip side of that vinyl is another B&S edit of his track Father Father.
Okay.
Which is, probably not one of my favourite Julio Bashmore tracks, but it's still a good track. And for me, it's kind of that bass that's coming in, and it's very, strong and big and booming. That for me sounds like Julio Bashmore.
Okay.
Like that's for me the sound of his. And I think of that kind of time, I don't know if it's not maybe from Bristol, but at least the Julio Bashmore sound and that kind of record label sound is house music that's a little bit stripped back. It's got a lot of the traditional like 808 drums, big like bass drums or kick drums, and bass on bottom, but not too many elements on top, and it's not too confusing track. There's not many, it's just brings in elements and takes them out. It's nothing too crazy or like overproduced, I guess.
It's like a very solid foundation down there, and then sort of,
a couple of things over the top. But ultimately they are very simple tracks. Yeah. But of that time, they're incredible, and for me, like very important tracks for the UK.
Nice.
And I think he's a great producer. But that was quite a big, Future Boogie was a big record label at the time. They had other artists like, Bailing and Simpson, who did the edits of these tracks. Julio Bashmore, which is the biggest one, that would be the most well-known. Waifs and Strays, they went on to do quite a big, like, I think they became semi-commercial UK, like, house music track. Okay. And Hackman as well, he used to do quite a few, I think he did 2 releases on that label. Yeah, so it's quite a short-lived record label, 4 or 5 years.
So what happened? They disbanded after that, and then they came back together?
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't really know. I was just looking through the history of releases, and I just saw it kind of tailed off. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And now they've had Rough Doug, who's also quite a big and famous UK producer.
Okay, so maybe they're picking back up.
It's all coming back.
It's all coming back.
So so you like it?
I loved it, dude. I loved it.
2 thumbs up from Berk.
2 thumbs up. Well, 1 thumb up. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to listen to more like that.
Cool.
If you, no pressure.
Hopefully I'll be back on the show if I'm allowed.
We'll see how this goes. Lots of likes for Ali if you want him back.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. So, any more to say about that, or?
No, nothing too much.
Cool. Well, in that case, that concludes our episode for today. So obviously, leave your likes, subscribe, all of that stuff, your comments on Ali and whether you want him back, thumbs up or thumbs down. His life is in your hands basically at this point on the show.
At your mercy. Be kind.
Exactly. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully see you next time on Arbiters of Sound. Bye bye. Driving, and I'm like, I don't know how to.
Just want to. I wanted to sing so much, but I can't sing. I can't sing on camera. That'd be so bad. It'd be terrible.